let's chat about how to fit your new wheelchair for your patient. I'll use this wheelchair with a harness on it as an example. When using an H harness or adventure harness like this, attach the wheelchair as far forward on the harness as possible, preferably around the neck part of the harness. This puts the weight in front of the shoulders or on the shoulders. If you were to attach the wheelchair to the chest strap or abdomen strap behind the legs, the weight would be placed behind the shoulders, putting a very uncomfortable strain on the dog. If you're using a step-in harness, it's a bit simpler. The weight is almost always put straight over the shoulders anyway. This is fine. Using a step-in harness is quite useful, makes it easier to get the patient in and out the wheelchair. But using an H or adventure harness, although it might be tricky to get the dog in and out of the wheelchair, it does place the weight a little bit further forward and is comfier for a dog that's really going to be going bombing around on the trails. After you've decided how your patient fits with the harness, you can then set the length of these arms. Setting the length of the arms is quite easy. There's many bolt holes in there to move the length of it. Once the length is set up correctly, then it is quite easy to set up the height by adjusting the height of the saddle and the height of the wheels. Try and achieve as horizontal as possible a frame. The moment the frame is too high with a low saddle, or the frame is low with a high saddle, the dog immediately seems a bit off balance, and it is definitely more difficult for them to navigate. It changes where the wheels sit. So by getting a really horizontal frame, it makes the patient a lot more robust when it goes to cruising around on the trails. The last thing to consider is the position of the wheels forwards and backwards. This can be achieved by moving this bolt hole forwards and backwards, and by swapping these two arms around, the struts around, so that you can move it even further forwards and backwards as you need. I recommend starting your dog in the beginning with the wheel set as far forward as possible. This does make adjustment to a wheelchair easier because there's not as much weight on the front legs. Once the dog becomes fit, really used to getting used to the weight on the front legs and cruising around on the trails, you're going to start to notice that sometimes when he reverses, the wheelchair has a tendency to pivot up. At that stage, it's a good idea to move these wheels as far back as you can. This does put extra weight on the front legs, but it makes the wheelchair much less likely to topple over on rough terrain or when reversing, in the grass particularly. But that is only suitable when your dog does have strong front legs and is used to the wheelchair. The wheelchairs come in one standard size in terms of height and length, which is very adjustable, but two different widths, the 150U and the 180U. The 150U is suitable for any dog from about 3 to 7 or 8 kilograms, depending on the width of the hips. The 180U is suitable for any dog from about 5 to 12 kgs, depending on the width of the hips. The smaller dog might have a bit too much room at the back here. It's not the end of the world. At the end of the day, the frame is extremely flexible near the front by design. So a dog with a fairly narrow chest or a wide chest, it doesn't really matter too much. And the camber it creates on the back wheels is negligible. One of the most common concerns that new wheelchair owners have is how flexible the frames are. This is not a problem. They are designed to be flexible in just the right way. The ends of the frames are designed to be more flexible than the U, and the legs are pretty rigid, but the entire frame can flex. This is really useful when hitting really big bumps at high speed, so the jolts are not transferred to the dog. The frame can take the flexibility. When the dog is moving like this, it doesn't flex much at all. It's really just a little bit of this when it's hitting bumps, and a lot of that at the end, which is also okay. It just takes the forces of the wheels hitting hard rocks and stones away from the patient. all parts are replaceable and have unique numbers on them. So when you damage a part, whether the dog chews a part, or the wheelchair gets stood on, or over time you've hit so many bumps in the dirt that eventually a part gives way, it's not a problem. They're easy to replace.